everybody, and I hope you're still healthy, and if not, that you're recovering. And I hope also that everybody in your surrounding is still healthy, and if not, that they are on the recovery. It's a really difficult time, and I'll try to give you something else in these times when the radio and the television and all the social media are just flooding you with really difficult to stomach information. I hope you're not too bored, or that you are rested finally. I'm rested since a long time, and there's a lot to do. What I want to do is to send every day an little film, little movie, little video about the seder plate every day. A little thing of the seder plate I will discuss, and I hope you will enjoy it. I start with the Karpas. This is my seder plate. It's very beautiful, and the Karpas is the first thing that we eat when we start with the seder, Karpas. By now it is completely sort of flopped. I have I could take another piece of what I think it is peterselie. I have no clue what it is in English. Anyway, I know nothing about plants. Hardly anything. And I'm not going to eat it because I'm not sure that it is not poisonous. It comes from my garden, parsley. I think it is, but it might be something completely different. Anyway, we eat something at the start of the Seder. And normally, what you find is that we do that as a symbol of springtime, which is fine. Or we do it as an appetizer, imitating the Greeks who had their dinners lying down as free people with cushions and enjoying that, and they started with greens as an appetizer. So we started also as a greens. But of course, the rabbis who do not really like the idea that we imitate the Greeks found, but also on different grounds, they found different reasons as to why we eat greens, why we start with that. And that's because karpas is basically a Greek word, but it is also a word in Sanskrit. And we found originally, and we find it also in the first chapter of the Esther scroll, in first chapter, Pasuk 7, Bible verse 7. No. I make a mistake. 6, 1, 6. And there it is in a different meaning. It means linen. It means material. Right. And the rabbis, Chazal, say that when you think of it, the whole story about slavery started with Yaakov giving this multicolored mantle, beautiful garment, to his beloved son Yosef, and this multicolored mantle garment was the spark to jealousy by his other brothers. And they were so jealous that finally they threw him in a pit and they sold him. And eventually Yosef ended up in Egypt, where eventually the Jewish people were enslaved. And the whole story of Exodus is, of course, the story of getting away from enslavement and being freed. So we sit at this Seder very leisurely as free people, imitating the Greeks, but also being celebrating the freedom of enslavement. Nothing, nothing wrong with me. I just have this winter cough, slime winter cough, no problem. Anyway, so they think that Karpas linen is the symbol of this multicolored coat of Yosef, which starts off the story. And as you know, we also dip it into a bowl of water with salt in it, and they say that also refers to, it's a symbol to the reference of um, the coat being dipped in the blood of an animal in order to create um, an associative proof to Yaakov that his son has been killed, devoured by a wild animal. We dip it, the green, in the salt. We dip it, salt water, of course, is also a disinfectant. So going back to the greens, we dip it in the salt water as a disinfectant, and also you can also see it as a mikveh, as something which adds value to this green. So we have spring, we have imitation, the start of the meal by the Greeks. We have a symbol of the coat that inspired so much jealousy and started the whole story. And we have the coat being dipped into the blood, the green dipped into the water as a proof that Joseph was devoured by a wild animal. But there's more. Um, the plant is also a sign of humility. I mean, a plant, you can step on it, you can just pull it out, you can just do it, hack it into pieces, and so it's also a sign of humility. And we start this story, this seder ceremony, with something that really, like the Chametz, makes us humble. Or reminds us of our humbleness, and it's especially in this time where we're just completely sort of helpless or humbled by, basically we're humbled by a, a tiny living species which can only be seen by the electro microscope, otherwise we couldn't even see it. We're humbled by it, so it could be reminders of humbleness and say, oh wow, we're really vulnerable, like a plant. It doesn't get water for an hour now and it is already gone. So humbleness and vulnerability, and I will talk about this in the coming weeks also, because in life we have a lot of moments where we're humble. And also imagine when the people were just preparing for the Exodus and they went out and they went through the sea and they went into the wilderness, how humble the Jewish people and everybody who came with them, a lot of people came with them also on their road to freedom, how humble they must have felt in face of these enormous, gigantic movements and crazy things happening, really, really humbleness. So this is, the Karpas could remind us of that. Yet another thing, and it's hardly ever spoken about, I think, I've never heard it at the Seder, is that it could also be a symbol of paradise. In paradise, we did eat plants and fruits and maybe seeds, but we did not eat animals. We didn't absolutely not eat animals. We were all vegetarians. And the great rabbis, Rav Kook, and some of the other ones also say that to be a vegetarian uh, gives you a higher level of spirituality, and it is an expression of a higher spiritual level if you eat as a vegetarian. Luckily enough, we do have a lot of vegetarians already in our Jewish communities and also worldwide, and also quite a lot of people start being eating even vegan. So it could remind us that we might better go back to paradise in a very simple way. Not for me because I'm a carnivore like incarnated, but literally. But we could go back to paradise in a way by eating vegetables. Really not. And that is more even apt nowadays than ever before because Dr. Greger, an American Jewish doctor who sends videos every day about eating healthy, he had and it's now also back into internet, a video about pandemics already 10 years, it's already 10 years old, and he tells us that pandemics basically are caused by our domestication of animals. Before that, there were no animals. We started domesticating animals 10,000 or 12,000 years ago, and we got pandemics because of them. Um, Measles is a pandemic coming from animals. The smallpox is and is coming from animals. Influenza is coming from the domestication of chickens. So maybe we can really fight these pandemics by worldwide becoming vegetarians and stop. There are many reasons to stop raising animals in the bio industry, which because it is really terrible. But I mean, this is also would be a very good reason to go vegetarian, to go back to the diet of paradise. Um, I want to say something else, and because that's who I am. So I am already convinced for a long time that 15 years or even longer because of the books of David Lewis Williams and David Pierce, The Mind in the Cave and Mind in Neolithic Times, but also because of my own experiences. I'm really convinced that civilization started by people taking consciousness expanding drugs or food, I would say. Not drugs, but food. They would eat they would eat the stuff that comes on grains, for instance, egrot, or they would take probably in Sinai uh, acacia or other stuffs. Anyway, I'm pretty convinced that civilization started out by taking consciousness expanding foods. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of plants with consciousness expanding qualities, stuff in them. Now, I do not say absolutely not, don't do it, don't start this Pesach Seder 2020 with edible hashis or magic mushrooms. Don't do it, don't do it, don't. I only say it might be that this little green does not refer to spring only and the renewal of life, that it does not stand for imitating the Greek free people who were making a meal and enjoy themselves, that it is not a symbol only of the code of Yaakov or all those other wonderful explanations, but it might be a symbol of the consciousness expanding stuff that we would take probably, maybe, thousands of years ago when we started celebrating Pesach. Because in the end, the Seder is a spiritual journey, diving deep into our past on a historical way, on a mythical way, on a self exploring way. And it might have been that the greens, with their beautiful qualities of expanding our consciousness, might have helped us on that journey. So, again, don't take it, but I just want to remind you of that. So, I hope that this year you might have a very broad vision on what this journey of Pesach is. With Karpas, when you stick it in your mouth, you think, okay, I have to expand by myself my vision on this world. I hope you have a good week, Shavua Tov, and I see you tomorrow when I will explain or give my vision on the next item on the seder plate. Sleep well and bleib gesund.